If you're a fan of American history, you've probably watched Lin-Manuel Miranda's hit musical Hamilton, based on the life of the first Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton. And if you've seen Hamilton, you're familiar with one General Charles Lee, who, and I quote, "shits the bed at the Battle of Monmouth." But does Lee really deserve to go down in history as the butt of a joke sung in Counterpoint? Stay tuned, it's the Battle of Monmouth on this episode of Bigfoot's Great American History Show. As the Continental Army starved and froze at Valley Forge during the winter of 1778, Charles Lee wined and dined in Manhattan as a British prisoner, read mandatory guest, having been captured 2 years earlier at a tavern in New Jersey while writing a letter to Horatio Gates disparaging Commander-in-Chief George Washington. In April of 1778, he was released as part of a prisoner exchange.
Now, much later, it was revealed that he had, in fact, suggested to his captors strategies to defeat the Patriots.
For the nonce, however, the Americans were none the wiser. After a few weeks of rest at home in Virginia, Lee rejoined Washington at Valley Forge, in time to watch the British prepare to depart Philadelphia. But they had taken such pains to seize the city, you protest. What could have changed? In short, the French joined the war against Britain. As such, the British now had other battles to think of, and thus assumed a defensive posture against Washington's Continentals. Their evident destination then was Sandy Hook, New Jersey, whence they might be ferried to New York, which they had captured back in 1776. After a 6-month stay at Valley Forge, Washington and his men broke camp on June 19th, determined to stay within striking distance of their enemy. 3 days later, they crossed the Delaware into western New Jersey at Coryell's Ferry. 2 days after that, the commander-in-chief met with his top generals at Hopewell in order to determine whether or not to attack while the British remained on the move. The British column was roughly 20,000 strong, led by General Henry Clinton, their previous commander, William Howe, having been removed amid heavy criticism after he failed to come to the aid of General John Burgoyne at the battles of Saratoga. The column's numbers, however, were bloated by thousands of American loyalists from Philadelphia who feared to remain in the city after the return of the Patriots. General Anthony Wayne and Quartermaster General Nathanael Greene both argued for an attack, as did the youthful Marquis de Lafayette. Charles Lee was among those who argued against one. After all, he had not been present at Valley Forge, while Prussian import Baron von Steuben drilled the American soldiers into competence. In Lee's mind, and this would prove to be of immense consequence, the upstart Americans stood no chance on a level playing field against the mighty British. In the end, Greene convinced Washington, who wanted to be convinced, that the moment was ripe for an attack.
The Continental Army's confidence was at an all-time high, and the British would be strung out with so many loyalists burdening their column.
Fatefully, Washington chose Lee to lead roughly 5,000 soldiers in the American vanguard. His second-in-command, however, turned the job down, believing it to be beneath him. So Washington gave it to Lafayette instead, whereupon Lee changed his mind. Before Washington had decided whether or not to return the command to Lee, Lafayette took the high road and volunteered to give it up. By June 26th, the British had reached Monmouth Courthouse, a crossroads village only 30 miles from Sandy Hook. Upon learning of the British departure the next morning, the 28th, Washington ordered Lee to attack and hold the enemy in place while he arrived from Englishtown with the main American force. Lee obliged. Inexplicably, however, he kept no communication with his commanders on the left, Wayne and Brigadier Generals Charles Scott and William Maxwell. Nor had he made plans with any of his subordinates the night before. The British rearguard consisted of 2,000 elite troops led by General Charles Cornwallis. Upon learning of the attack, Clinton promptly ordered 8,000 additional men back to Monmouth along the Middletown Road. What happened next is not entirely clear. According to one version of events, Lee called for an immediate retreat. Lee would later claim at his court-martial that he planned to attack the British flank and only retreated after Scott's withdrawal left his own flank exposed. At any rate, his entire force was shortly in full retreat. As on the Broadway stage, Lafayette Hamilton and John Laurens were among those flabbergasted by the turn of events.
Now, Washington, of course, was on his way with 7,000 additional men. Yet, for whatever reason, Lee neglected to inform his commanding general of the retreat until much later.
In fact, when two of Washington's aides asked Lee what they should tell the commander-in-chief, Lee reportedly replied that he, quote, did not know what to say. By early afternoon, Hamilton himself had informed Washington of the vanguard's retreat, whereupon Washington promptly rode out to investigate. A desire to know the meaning of this disorder and confusion, he howled at his second-in-command, who evidently had expected praise and not rebuke. The American troops would not stand against the British bayonets, Lee argued, betraying a crucial lack of faith in his own men. Washington responded by hurling a volley of oaths at his bewildered general. By all accounts, it was an upbraiding unlike anything anyone had ever heard from the lips of their commanding general. Meanwhile, Clinton, sensing an opportunity to rout the American vanguard, had pursued Lee westward with a force of 10,000 men. He was now but 15 minutes away. Washington, having made his point, ordered Lee to join Wayne in a delaying action and scramble to secure the American defenses. In the end, Wayne's rearguard won the Americans an extra half hour. By the time the British arrived, Washington had his men in a solid defensive position, with Nathanael Greene on the high ground to their right. His presence alone stopped the retreat, Lafayette wrote of Washington in his memoirs. I thought then, as now, that I had never beheld so superb a man.
The day's engagement would prove to be the longest of the entire war, fought in 100-degree weather, no less.
The British attacked and reformed multiple times, stunned by the transformation in the Continental Army's defensive discipline. By 6 p.m., Clinton signaled a retreat. It was hardly a devastating loss. Tactically, it was not a loss at all. They would soon arrive at their goal, Sandy Hook, and from thence, New York. All the same, the Steuben-trained Continentals had made an impression and finally held the field after a major engagement. And with the French in the fight, morale and momentum were now on their side. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy our content, and let us know your thoughts on General Lee's place in history in the comments below. Until next time, this is Bigfoot saying so long and save me a seat at your next campfire.